Back in 2005, WWE launched an overwhelmingly successful tribute show to the now deceased ECW called ECW One Night Stand. They went all out with this show, including superstars dressed in their ECW gear, the inclusion of ECW wrestlers that weren't even signed to the company like Sabu and the Sandman, and the event was even held in the Hammerstein Ballroom. So, after seeing this overwhelmingly successful tribute show, they decided, let's do it again in 2006. However, this ECW One Night Stand show would be very different. Instead of it being just another tribute show, this One Night Stand event would launch the new third brand of WWE titled ECW as they bring it back under the WWE veil. And even though One Night Stand 2006 was an especially fun show, especially in comparison to the other pay-per-view events they had around that time, I think it's safe to say that ECW fell apart very quickly afterwards. This new show was clearly just ECW in name only, with nothing from the classic ECW show being truly represented in this third brand. Instead of having hardcore matches or off-the-wall booking, we had this. So yeah, basically from their very first episode, the ECW brand was as dead as, well, that guy, I guess. It all went so poorly due to a terrible writing staff that was basically uncooperative with Paul Heyman, the original inventor of ECW, but also they had a lot of bad luck to go through. Hey guys, my name is Dominic, and today I look to rebook the WWE relaunch of Extreme Championship Wrestling. So before we do anything at all, we need to ask ourselves two specific questions. Questions that I feel WWE didn't really ask themselves before relaunching ECW. How will ECW feel different to Raw and SmackDown? Well, immediately, I would make every single ECW match an Extreme Rules match. No disqualifications, no countouts. If you're gonna have a brand called Extreme Championship Wrestling, maybe you should focus a bit on the extreme aspect of it. Now, that doesn't mean every single match has to deal with chairs, flaming tables, barbed wire. No, you don't need all of that. In fact, there could be a lot of matches with just no weapons involved at all. But the idea that every match is an Extreme Rules match gives it this feeling that anything can happen at any point. You can see somebody bust out a kendo stick or a steel chair. Yet other times you could see these technical masterpieces like they had in ECW the original, where there just were no weapons, but instead just a knockout, drag-out brawl. And the other thing I would do to make ECW feel a bit different is I would actually introduce the ECW television title. To add to more of that unpredictable nature of ECW, if you have an ECW television championship that was defended on most, if not every single episode of ECW, then that always gives somebody a reason to tune in. Maybe there could be a title change. This ECW television title can also be used to not only help the younger guys going into ECW, like we would see with John Morrison, The Miz, Kofi Kingston, Evan Bourne, etc., but it would also be an interesting title for the old-timers, okay, people like Sandman and Sabu, guys who realistically wouldn't really capture the title, okay? They're ECW legends. They don't need the ECW championship. If they just go after the television title, make it a bit more of a hardcore title in that sense, well then maybe you could have something. So boom, ECW immediately feels different in comparison to Raw and SmackDown due to this more violent and potentially unpredictable nature of the brand. Okay, you already make it so ECW feels a bit more authentic with the extreme aspect of ECW being fulfilled, and also the ECW TV title helps to create a bit more of an unpredictable and chaotic feel to the whole overall show. However, the second question I want to get to is a bit more complicated. How exactly does WWE benefit from ECW? You see, when WWE created SmackDown, they had an intent goal in mind, okay? They had so many incredible superstars on the roster that if they had both shows, they could each showcase these incredible superstars. Yet, when ECW was brought into WWE, they didn't seem to have a real clear goal in mind. And that is where I try to fix it. Now, I'm sure you've heard of a little thing called NXT. The show that prominently features these new up-and-coming talents from WWE that they have picked away from the independent circuit. And while WWE picked the independent circuit apart through OVW, they were quickly transitioning into FCW around this time. FCW would become their developmental brand, which of course would turn into NXT, but here's my question. Why would you only have one developmental brand? If you really want to get the most out of your superstars, why wouldn't you have multiple developmental systems, okay? One in Florida, one in Texas, one in New York, one in Canada even. Sure, we're already seeing that now with NXT and NXT UK, but back then it was seemingly unheard of for WWE to have two separate developmental systems. Well, what if we use ECW as a bit of a televised developmental system alongside FCW? You have FCW sort of become the beginning school, okay? That's where people really hone in on their craft. And then you have ECW sort of become this last step towards making it to Raw and SmackDown. That way you have two sort of developmental territories where in ECW you have all these legends like Rob Van Dam, like Tommy Dreamer, like all these guys who have been around the block a few times, and you have FCW to really teach them how to become WWE style wrestlers, okay? If you sign a new guy, you send them over to FCW, and then when they feel like they're ready to be put onto television, you send them to ECW before Raw and SmackDown. So yeah, it basically combines NXT and ECW. So if you're somebody like Vince McMahon and you have this idea for this young guy who has apparently been signed to ECW, another, sort of developmental brand, you can immediately call them up from Raw or SmackDown after seeing what they can do in front of the cameras. So yeah, ECW sort of becomes the final test for these guys after they graduate from FCW. However, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that's not particularly talking about the booking of the show. It's just a few ideas I had to make ECW a bit different and a bit more interesting in comparison to Raw and SmackDown. However, now I will get into what I'm going to be calling sort of the booking highlights from ECW One Night Stand 2006 all the way to WrestleMania 23. And immediately out of the gate, I'm going to be stealing a bit of a Paul Heymanism with the ECW 6. Quite like the SmackDown 6, we're going to have the ECW 6. And those people are Rob Van Dam, Bobby Lashley, CM Punk, Tommy Dreamer, Big Show, and Elijah Burke. You have Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer, who are a bit more of the hardcore ECW originals. You have CM Punk and Elijah Burke, who can kind of become this pillar for the technical aspect of ECW. And then you have Big Show and Bobby Lashley, who can sort of become these massive guys that people have to eventually try and top, okay, these giants for these smaller guys to eventually have to defeat. So yeah, with that out of the way, with those 6 guys sort of becoming the focus of this booking, let's get into it. We got ECW One Night Stand 2006 to immediately talk about, and I would keep basically everything except for 2 things. For one, Big Show does not come out after the tag team match and attack Super Crazy, Tajiri, and the FBI, because that immediately buries like 5 guys on your roster. I never got why they did that. And 2, when it comes to Rey Mysterio and Sabu, yeah, that whole terrible mess that basically spat in the face of every ECW fan, I would have Rey Mysterio just beat Sabu. Okay, Sabu does not need to win the World Heavyweight title, and Rey Mysterio, he didn't really get too many wins during his reign anyways. this is a very clear and easy way for Rey to just beat Sabu, and so he looks a little bit better as champion. And hopefully that's a bit better than, you know, having a non-finish. However, now, as I take a deep breath, it's time to actually get into the booking with the first episode of ECW. So to kick it off, I would have a tournament to crown the television title from the first episode of ECW all the way to SummerSlam, which is about 2 months down the line. This whole tournament is basically filled with all of these hardcore matches, these big high spot moments that properly introduce the audience to these ECW originals. Guys like Balls Mahoney, Sabu, and Just Incredible fight and compete in this tournament for the television title. You know, because realistically, not a lot of people really know who these ECW original guys are, so if you just showcase what they can do in the ring with these big high spot moments, maybe people will start to like them. Meanwhile, to turn over to Rob Van Dam, the new WWE champion, I would keep the whole aspect of him also holding the ECW title. However, on the first episode of ECW, as he's crowned the ECW champion, we hear the music and see the walk down to the ring from Tommy Dreamer. Basically, the story of this feud can become Tommy Dreamer was the last breath of ECW before they eventually died in 2001. He was almost running the shows, trying to keep the whole thing together before ECW just eventually collapsed. And so Tommy Dreamer feels as though it's his honor, his duty, to take that ECW title away from him because he feels he deserves that title reign after, well, trying to hold ECW together in its dying days. And of course, Rob Van Dam would also continue his feud with John Cena and Edge over the WWE Championship. But that's the first episode. What happens a few weeks later when Rob Van Dam, you know, gets suspended? Well, for one, I would absolutely have Rob Van Dam lose the WWE title. I know, a lot of people would hate that, but realistically, you can't have your top champion, your WWE champion, be suspended. You just can't really do that. I know it's a bit harsh, but it's also kind of a bit of a punishment for Rob Van Dam, so he gets stripped of the WWE title, and Cena or Edge, one of them, takes the title away from him. However, on the ECW episode where he's supposed to lose the title, I would actually have him keep the championship. I would have Rob Van Dam versus Tommy Dreamer in this extreme hardcore brawl where Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer take this big, massive bump. And, well, Rob Van Dam is essentially written off of television. But of course, RVD retains the title. And as Rob Van Dam is currently written off of television, Tommy Dreamer can continue the feud during these promos saying that, sure, even though he lost to Rob Van Dam, he is still here, okay? He is still strong enough and willing to compete while RVD is sitting at home. So it's not necessarily a heel turn. I mean, I know that you can kind of read it as such, but I don't think it's a heel turn. It's more of Rob Van Dam, you know, not being there and Tommy Dreamer saying, I have the strength and the will to continue competing while Rob Van Dam is at home. So, you know, it's a bit of a conflict between athletes more than a heel turn. And he continues to cut these promos until Rob Van Dam, a few weeks before SummerSlam, returns and they set up a match between Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer for SummerSlam in a steel cage match for the ECW Championship. So, at SummerSlam, we have the ECW television title tournament coming to an end with none other than Bobby Lashley leaving with the title. And I know a lot of people would want to burn me at the stake for even saying that, but realistically, not a lot of people know who these ECW guys are. I'm sorry. Not a lot of people, at least around this time, the WWE fan, doesn't really know who Sandman and Sabu and all these other ECW guys are, but they know who Bobby Lashley is. So Bobby Lashley winning the television title hopefully will draw a few more eyes towards the ECW brand. And it also gives a big meaty boy for guys to try and conquer while Bobby Lashley holds the title. And of course, Rob Van Dam also retains the ECW title in the steel cage match against Tommy Dreamer. However, now the booking continues as we go from SummerSlam all the way to December to Dismember. And if we're going to be honest here, the Hardcore Elimination Chamber match concept is an interesting concept. Like, sure, I wouldn't have it be every single Elimination Chamber match, but you know, it's got that ECW flair that brings it a bit more intrigue. Sure, the real-life match went down the toilet almost immediately. However, that was due to bad booking, not necessarily due to the match concept. So after Rob Van Dam once again proves his worth as ECW champion, he now has to look at the landscape of ECW and says, oh shit, there are a lot of potential challengers. And as such, we have the chamber match as Rob Van Dam gears up for December to Dismember as he goes up against the likes of Tommy Dreamer, Elijah Burke, Sabu, Big Show, and Test. Tommy obviously just wants another rematch to continue their feud for the title. Elijah Burke has hopefully been doing some interesting promo stuff like he did in TNA. Big Show is this absolutely massive guy that absolutely nobody wants to win, so he's walking in as this big Goliath and this massive heel. Sabu is an ECW legend that can basically just be slot into the title picture at any time. And Test, well, he's Test. And to continue the timeline of the ECW television title, I would continue to have Bobby Lashley once again show off his dominance as he continues his reign going into December to Dismember. So Bobby Lashley shows off his impressive strength against these top-level heels like Daivari and Matt Striker. Yeah! You know, that is until CM Punk steps up to the plate and challenges Lashley for the title. So at December to Dismember, we have Bobby Lashley versus CM Punk, where CM Punk beats Lashley and becomes the new television champion. Because hopefully around this time, like in real life, the fans start gravitating towards CM Punk, and hopefully this win can be a big thing for CM Punk. And in the Elimination Chamber, I would have the final two competitors be Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer, sparking up that feud once again. That is until finally, Tommy Dreamer gets what he deserves and beats Rob Van Dam, leaving the chamber with the ECW Championship. And I personally think that ECW fans, past, present, and potentially future, would love it. However, after December to Dismember, now we have a bit of a shorter window with this booking as we gear up for the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. So it's announced that Tommy Dreamer versus Rob Van Dam will happen one last time. I realized during this booking that perhaps this video's gone on a bit too long, but screw it. Rob Van Dam versus Tommy Dreamer for one last time at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view in a WWE staple, the TLC match. Meanwhile, since I'm primarily focusing on the title feuds, obviously there's other feuds hopefully going on in the background other than the title feuds, but, you know, just to focus on the championships again, I would actually have CM Punk just keep the title for a really long time. In fact, I would have CM Punk kind of rival the idea of getting to the Rob Van Dam level of holding the title for a really long time. Rivaling the idea of Rob Van Dam's 700-day reign. Like, legit, I would have him hold it for like a year and a half, really get people thinking that CM Punk could beat the Rob Van Dam record. However, sadly, he does leave ECW in 2008, so yeah, he's not going to quite make it to the 700-day reign, but, you know, having the title for a really long time could do some good things for CM Punk's career. However, for Bobby Lashley, the man that CM Punk beat for the television title, he can be seen being super pissed off, okay, going absolutely savage on his opponents with his raw strength and power. Basically, Bobby Lashley is super pissed off. Just remember that for a few minutes. However, to jump back to the main ECW title, Tommy Dreamer beats Rob Van Dam in this TLC match before, well, after the match, hopefully they, you know, shake hands or hug or kiss or just have sex in the ring. Whatever you want. Tommy Dreamer and Rob Van Dam, they have that liking and respect even though they've been having this feud go on for months. However, now Tommy Dreamer continues to defend his ECW title to No Way Out, where he goes up against his new challenger, Sabu. Again, Sabu is kind of that legendary figure in ECW that can just be plopped into the ECW championship picture whenever you so wish. These two ECW legends having a knockout, drag-out ECW hardcore brawl at No Way Out once again could intrigue some fans. And even though Tommy Dreamer beats Sabu at No Way Out, he then gets attacked by Bobby Lashley after the match. Bobby Lashley, again, super pissed off that he lost the television title, wants the ECW title, and Tommy Dreamer, you know, he has to suffer the consequences. Also, a bit of a sidebar, by the way, I understand that Bobby Lashley was picked for that Donald Trump versus Vince McMahon thing at WrestleMania 23. Well, here's my counter argument. Don't have Bobby Lashley in that match. He never really made sense in that match to begin with, okay? Umaga representing Vince McMahon and Bobby Lashley representing Donald Trump never made too much sense to begin with, so just find other guys that would make more sense for them. And honestly, who freaking cares? Anyways, to close out this video, we turn our attention to Bobby Lashley versus Tommy Dreamer at WrestleMania 23 for the ECW title. It's all been building to this, and I would have Bobby Lashley beat Tommy Dreamer and become ECW champion. Now, I know, a lot of you probably really hate that. However, after looking through the roster while trying to book this video, I realized ECW did not have a lot of top-tier heels. Really, other than The Big Show, they had almost nobody to work with. Who do they have? Kevin Thorne? Mike Knox? Matt Striker? Like, they really didn't have too many top-tier bad guys, and as such, I think Bobby Lashley being built into this brutal, big Goliath for these babyfaces to challenge against makes a lot of sense for the ECW title picture. I mean, think about it. You can go up against these guys like Tommy Dreamer again, Sabu, Sandman, CM Punk, all of these guys who, well, will be fighting from underneath against the big Goliath, this big powerhouse in Bobby Lashley. Meanwhile, hopefully you're turning a few of them heel so that they could eventually take his top spot as the biggest heel in ECW. Or just use my NXT ECW idea so that you have these newer guys come in and try to take his spot as the big bad guy. Yeah, but that's it. I understand that ECW 2006 had a lot of bad booking and even worse luck, but hopefully what I developed here, hopefully what I did here can sort of fix the injustice that was WWE's ECW. But yeah, what did you think? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you guys liked it, please let me know by hitting that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, but if you have, why not hit the bell to be notified of everything we do here on Grapple Nation? Tell me how much you hate Bobby Lashley as ECW champion in the comments section below. And until next time, have a good day. Bye-bye.